David Littleproud joins us. Thanks so much, David. Whew, have you got any sleep? Are you having dreams, nightmares? What do you think this Monday morning?
Best sleep I had in a long time last night, but doesn't take the pain away. The reality is it's a tough pill to swallow, but I'm proud of the Nationals. We've held on to all our seats and we're now slightly ahead in Bendigo. That's a 10.5% swing we've had to us there. When the rest of Victoria went backwards for the coalition, we went ahead, and it's going to be a very tight race in Bendigo. We're not necessarily confident we're going to hold on, but it's going to be up and down over the next couple of days. But to get even that sort of swing in the environment we face is an amazing result for the Nationals. I'm really proud of it, and we've got everybody back in the House of Reps, which is the first target. And when you look at the carnage that was across the country, the Nats ran a very professional campaign right across this. It was a flawless campaign from the Nats, and I'm proud of all our people and how we articulated that over the last 5 weeks.
So what was it that won it for you? Or at least maintained the status quo for you? You did get swings to you, Bendigo, even if you don't get that in the end, which I'm pretty sure you will, but we'll check with Tom Connell. I mean, a more than 10% swing against a sitting Labor member, given the results we've just seen, is quite a big achievement. But if there's one policy, what was it?
I think it was more about just being hyper-local. That's how the Nationals operate, being local champions, being in there amongst the community, being of the community. Not someone that's been dropped in, but actually someone that's got a profile in the community, that's trusted within the community. And that's the campaign we ran in Bendigo and everywhere else. And I think that's the formula that's worked for us for a long time now, one that's proven, even in tough times, still works. And we're going to dust ourselves off. But I think what it shows is there's huge opportunities for us to progress further after this election, when we've weathered such a torrid election, to be able to then move forward again shows that the formula works, and we've just got to stick to it, and we've got to make sure that we work constructively with our Liberal friends. Well,
speaking of your Liberal friends, what went wrong there?
Oh, look, I think the Labor campaign was just slick in being able to tear Peter Dutton down. I think they did an outstanding job of being able to not necessarily put one thing, but a whole lot of things, and draw on that and have the agility to do that quickly, to tear his character down, to make him effectively unelectable, not even across the country, but his own electorate. And I think there's a lesson there about the professionalism and the speed of which the Labor campaign operated. They saw that as the ability to get back into office, and they executed it to perfection. Credit where credit's due. You just can't sit here and be angry about it. You've got to look at it and understand they executed their strategy to perfection, and they got the result. We've got to learn from that, we've got to understand that, and they were able to demonise Peter Dutton to the point where people just didn't feel comfortable or trust to be able to put that one next to our names.
But as you say, they are the rules of engagement. Both sides, all sides know how political campaigns work, and there needs to be some thread of truth for Labor or whatever party to be able to exploit. When you look at the trends, David, there is very little, I would say no good news for the Liberal Party. We are looking at those safe blue ribbon areas, so far from safe, even now in the Labor column. You're going to have to not only defend still some of those blue and green seats at the next election, but get some back. Is there any hope of doing that, particularly for the Liberal Party, your Liberal friends, as you put them, when women in particular are looking at the independents? They are looking at the independents now for the second term, second election in a row, and young people. You're just not capturing the imagination of those under 44.
Yeah, and this is where the new leadership of the Liberal Party will have to reflect on that. One of the first things I did when I became Nationals leader, we had some near-death experiences in the 22 election, and women left us in droves, and young people. And so I made sure that the first thing I did as leader was to tour the country and to have just basically meetings, listening and understanding exactly what were those issues, and that really resonated with women and young people, and that's why we lent very heavily into childcare for the regions as the Nationals, and I think that played heavily in bringing some of them home, as well as health and education for young people with country university centres to stay in regional areas. So I think what it'll take is new leadership to reflect and honestly reflect on what happened and understand the demographics that left the Liberal Party. And I think that there is a conceivable way back on this, because what will overlay all this is the lived experience of the continued cost of living crisis that'll come. The ideology is not going to change just because Anthony Albanese won. It's going to continue. We're going to have an energy grid that's going to fall apart. So what this is an opportunity for a new Liberal leadership to do is to re-engage, to understand, to listen and to understand and to be honest about that. And we did that after the 22 election, and we've had the result this time that demonstrates that it can be done.
I remember it well, and it helps that you are a young leader, I think. I think we've seen that in the results at this election as well. But when you say an honest policy reflection, you do need to honestly reflect on nuclear, don't you?
Oh, look, I think, as I've just said, I think the lived experience is that this energy crisis is not going to go away.
No.
Just look at what's happening in Spain and Portugal. They've gone to 77% renewable and the lights are going out. We are at some point going to have an honest conversation about baseload power and nuclear energy is zero emissions. I mean, we're living up to the principles of zero emissions. We're just saying to people, particularly in those teal seats, we agree with you. We want to reduce emissions, but just understand what you're asking us to bear by your ideology. I mean, you rail up about 6 wind turbines at North Head. You're talking about thousands of these things littered across our landscape, and we're just meant to roll over and accept it when there are alternatives.
No, I accept that absolutely, but there's two different arguments here, isn't there, David? This all renewables approach and whether nuclear is the answer. Now, I have seen some research that showed that even people in Peter Dutton's own seat, without any nuclear facilities proposed to be nearby, it was unpopular to the tune of about 60%. Now, that's just one poll, and we know, even from this election, that polls aren't always correct. But to me, David, where we sit this morning, it seems like, you know, the coalition in many ways is clinging on to nuclear because they need a point of difference, not because nuclear is actually the answer here. Is there a scenario where you say, look, do you even have the political bandwidth to be able to prosecute for the next 6 years and explain to people why nuclear is the answer if maybe you win in 1 or 2 terms? I mean, that pushes it down the track again, doesn't it? So how do you have the political capital be able to just explain nuclear? Because it's going to take everything you need whilst also needing to explain your other credentials when it comes to the economy and social issues.
Well, firstly, I wouldn't accept the premise that we're 6 years away from government. Anything can happen in 3 years.
Totally.
And it comes back to my initial statement about the lived experience. This is not going to work, going all renewables. And we're going to hit what Spain and Portugal are going through now. You're going to see Tomago shut down. You're going to have the lived experience. And what we've said, and I don't think nuclear energy was the issue that turned people away from the coalition. I don't accept that premise. That's not what was on the lips of people as they were running through. There's a fringe element that was running around trying to make it an issue to scare people, but I think Australians were open to the idea. We have to continue to make sure we explain that.
No, I agree with that, David. I agree with that, and I do want to drill down on this a little bit because when you look at the research from Redbridge and others, no, it wasn't nuclear per se, and the concerns about whether it would work, it was the cost. It was the cost of it and the length of time it would take to get up and running. That's what really scared people. How do you counter that? And are you telling me here this morning that you're going to review nuclear, or, you know, you're going to stick with it?
Well, what alternatives do we have? In fact, the frontier economics, and this is, you and I argued quite vigorously last week about the lack of accountability by the Fourth Estate during the campaign to hold Anthony Albanese to account about the $600 billion lie. The frontier economics did not put it at $600 billion. Our total grid with nuclear at 38%, not 4% of the grid, came in at $331 billion. That was with gas, that was with renewables and nuclear. So it is cheaper than the all renewables approach. And this is where it also said, and I think this is important to understand as well, that you can build coal-fired power stations with carbon capture storage. They're about the same price, if not a little bit more, but technology will be there. We've always been technology agnostic, and I don't think you just close your mind off, because this is a problem that's going to come back.
That's right.
Yeah, Anthony Albanese's kicked it down the road.
Could there be a better solution than nuclear? Will you explore that? I mean, what does this result tell you? Does it tell you that you kind of need to go back to the drawing board?
We've always been open to technology.
Okay.
No, we've always been open to all technology, and whether that's a coal-fired power station with carbon capture storage. I mean, that's what the experts actually said, not a scare campaign that's predicated on a lie that unfortunately wasn't vigorously called out during the campaign. It was an easy line to say $600 billion, and there was cuts, and they knew that this wasn't coming off the budget. It was an off-budget item, and so it was all just predicated on a lie, but no one had the courage to stand up and say Anthony Albanese, until Andrew Clennell, and I think Triple M had a red-hot crack at it as well.
Yeah.
So we've got to stand for something, and this is a problem in the nation. Energy is the economy, and unless you're going to have the courage to have a solution, we're going to have a real problem in this country, and I'm not going to kick it down the road. If we want to be an alternative government, we've got to be able to solve the nation's problems, and this will be our biggest problem to face.
One final question here, because I've taken up a lot of your time this morning, and I reckon you probably deserve
I got a fair bit of it now.
Breakfast beer or something like that. But look, we saw Simon Birmingham post on LinkedIn. He's a moderate, of course. He has left the parliamentary party. He's from South Australia. I think he put up a really considered post on LinkedIn last night about the result, and essentially what it boiled down to is the Liberal Party in particular not learning the lessons of the last election and the lessons in their own review, and talked about perhaps the need to consider a quota for women in the Liberal Party. Perhaps that is time, but I don't want to focus on that so much. I want to focus on this other letter that's circulating. It looks like from Conservatives in New South Wales. It is anonymous, but basically they go on to say that Peter Dutton's campaign was deliberately undermined by the moderate faction. There was a strategic campaign from the beginning to make Peter Dutton look bad and sabotage his policies. There were leaks and internal betrayals by the moderates. It goes on. And I appreciate this may have been written in the heat of that loss. But really, have you seen any evidence of that?
Oh, no. And look, I tend to stick to the National family, the Nationals in how we operate. And can I say I'm proud of the fact that we had nearly 60% of our candidates were women. And Alison Penfold will join us in the House of Representatives, a strong, articulate woman that'll do a great job in the seat of line. And my job is to create an environment for them to continue to put their hands up and to come forward and to represent the Nationals. But look, I think there is some rawness at the moment. This is a huge defeat, and I think there's going to be some emotions running around. I think it's time for everyone to just take a deep breath, to be honest with ourselves, but do that in an environment that you can create where it is constructive. It is a constructive one that you learn the lessons, as we did out of 22, and we went out and re-engaged. That's the courage and the hard work that needs to happen from the Liberal Party, and we'll obviously review our campaign and what we can do better and where we can continue to move forward. And that's the mindset that I want to bring, and I hope that the Liberal Party brings to their party. But the Nationals have moved forward, and if we win Bendigo, that'd be a huge achievement. Yeah. But we're not going to stop there. We're going to look at other opportunities of where we can continue to progress.
Well, I said yesterday, David, you may or may not have heard me. I said yesterday on the panel with Andrew Clennell and Kieran Gilbert that the Nationals should be asking for more, and you should be getting it. Is that your intention?
Oh, we'll be reasonable and sensible about it, but obviously there's within the coalition agreement there is extra numbers when you're related to the overall party room. But I think one of the great things that happened in this election for us is that we weren't a drag on the Liberal vote. There wasn't ads with my face on it in Sydney, Melbourne or Brisbane. My job is not to be a drag and to create an environment for the Liberals to be able to do whatever they can do. So I think the Nationals, there can be no blame put on this defeat in any of the Liberal seats. We ran a campaign where we were running, and we made sure that we weren't a drag, and we created that environment for the Liberal Party. But as we move forward, we'll be sensible, we'll be rational, and we'll continue to make sure we understand we can't govern without the Liberal Party, and they can't govern without us. So we do need a strong Liberal Party, and it's important that we play a constructive role in that. But we will make sure that we continue to influence policy into the future that's good for regional Australia, that's good for Australia. We're broader than that. We do go to the cities every now and then, and much of our seats are urbanised now. You know, while primary production is still at the core of our party, we still represent probably more teachers and nurses than we do farmers now. But we're not going to forget our primary production, but we are understanding that we have urbanised seats that have much of the aspirations of those in capital city suburbs to have. So we're not that different. We're not foreign beings living out here. We're actually not bad people.
Yeah, what you're talking about is the changing demographics, particularly in places like Bendigo. That's a living, breathing example. David, thanks so much for your time. We'll see you soon.